Hello everyone and welcome back to my newest pick a card reading. If you are new here, I don't do a ton of pick a card readings, but I do try to make them related to psychic development. And so today we're jumping into all of our 6 clairs. So each of these piles represents a different clair. I am combining clairvoyance and clairgustance, so that's why you're seeing 5 and not 6. And basically, we're going to jump into how you can strengthen these specific clairs. And so you can do this pick a card reading one of 2 ways. You can kind of go with what pile you're most drawn to, and then I'll tell you which one is associated with which clair. Or if you know you absolutely want to develop a certain clair, I'm going to be putting little pieces of paper on this in a second. And then you can actually go to the pile and the timestamp so that you can listen to that specific reading. Now, if you are new to clairs, I would also suggest checking out my clairs video so you can kind of get an understanding of what these are and what I'm talking about. I have a whole series on them. And then we're going to be talking about, how to improve these clairs. And a lot of improving your psychic ability comes down to removing blocks. So if you're also unfamiliar with blocks, check out my block removal video because that might be a huge help. Now, I am setting the intention that these readings are timeless, so no matter when you are finding this reading, this will reflect where you are at with your clairs at the current moment. But you can come back to it and you might be attracted to a different pile. So it is reusable, and let me know if you guys end up liking this. I could do more than one and make this kind of like a normal thing. And if you're new to pick a card readings in general, I also have a video on how to listen to pick a cards, which might be helpful because you can definitely be making some mistakes if you're new to them. And just know, just like any other pick a card reading, that some of this stuff might be for you, some of it might be for somebody else. So just kind of use your discernment and take what's meant for you and toss what doesn't resonate. And so if you aren't sure which clair you want to strengthen, I would take the time right now to meditate on these cards. I'll play some music here in a second and just ask your guides, which one are you supposed to strengthen right now, and kind of feel out each of these piles and which one you're supposed to be drawn to. So I'm going to give you guys about 20-30 seconds to meditate on them. And again, if you're wanting a specific pile, I'm going to put little images on these cards so you know which one is associated with which clair. Alrighty, and if you want to hone a very specific clair, don't judge me for my crappy drawings, but these are going to let you know which pile is associated with which. And my handwriting is sometimes not the best. So first we have claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and then we have clairalience and clairgustance. I'm again kind of combining this pile. And then clairsentience. So we have pile 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now you can go to the timestamp if you're wanting to hone one of these in particular. Claircognizance. So first I just want to start with kind of where we are at presently with claircognizance. And again, remember that some of you might not be this way, some of you might. Okay, and so the 10 of Swords, I feel like the majority of you, kind of with your claircognizance, you're just frustrated with it. You're done. You've been trying and it's just not working for you and you're angry. Or I do think there's it's so funny when I do pick a card readings because my guides literally give me percentages. I think they're trying to make the Virgo and me happy, but I feel like 30% of you is what they're telling me. This has been the recent past. You finally kind of got through all the mental struggles around claircognizance, and it's finally done. Because this card can, like, the mood and the energy of this card can be very much like, oh my gosh, I need to walk away from this, like it's just bogging me down. But it can also be about, oh hey, you finished this cycle, all of the hardship is now behind you, and it's only like sunshine and rainbows. I shouldn't say that, but it's only going to get better from here. So you probably intuitively know kind of where you are at in regards to that. But again, I feel like the majority of us have tried with claircognizance, and it's just like frustrating us, and it feels like it's not working. And I feel like there's a lot of self-sabotage, especially when it comes to our mental attitude. So I do feel like a lot of this is in our head. We're maybe telling ourselves we're not claircognizant. We're telling ourselves we can't do it. And I kind of have a feeling that that's not the case. But let me go now into the blocks, the biggest blocks that we have around claircognizance. I feel the frustration with this Claire for sure. Because we have both death and the vampire. Okay, but again with the death card, some of you guys, again, have moved past this, and it almost feels like your claircognizance is like your strongest in a lot of ways. But then maybe sometimes it's not reliable. Because when I think of the death card, I actually feel like you are letting go of the things that no longer serve you. Maybe it's those mental attitudes, especially in regards to this Claire, and kind of like the mental blocks that you're putting in your way. And you're sort of transforming and you're entering into this new chapter of, okay, no, I'm going to start using my claircognizance and it's going to start working for me a lot better. Maybe it already is, again, for some of you. And I feel like the 10 and the death card are kind of very similar energies in that way. But honestly, even for those of you who feel like you're more on the struggling side of this, like I'm seeing this as a really good sign that, you know, you're almost at the worst of it, or maybe the worst of it is over, and really all that's required of you is to just kind of get rid of these mental blocks, and then it's going to be so easy for that Claire to start working for you. And especially with this vampire card coming up, I feel like when this card is on the table, I really feel like it's basically saying, hey, you are kind of sucking your own energy around this subject. Maybe you are emotionally draining yourself because you feel like you can't do it. Or heck, maybe it's even that for some of you, claircognizance can be a little draining because it comes so fast and you get so much information that it can be stressful. Like I'm specifically getting that for you empaths out there. But this is really saying that you guys have emotional intelligence. That's what it says, kind of written here on the bottom. And this is saying that all of this doesn't matter because you have really good emotional intelligence, and you can work through your emotions, and you can work through these mental blocks that you're putting on yourself of, oh, I can't do it. Oh, it's too hard, you know, whatever it is. And I feel like because you guys are smart and you know that it's all in your head and you know that it's just a process of releasing that, that it's a very simple switch, honestly, for claircognizance to start working for you. I'm also feeling like with the death and the vampire card, like I know I'm using my Halloween deck, but I actually feel like maybe, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but maybe you guys might have a better time communicating with spirits that have passed. Maybe that's a strong suit. Like maybe your claircognizance works better when you are communicating with spirits. That's a question that I was about to ask, but let's jump into next how you can strengthen this Claire. And so we have Spark and Metamorphosis. Oh my gosh, so many butterflies in this reading. That's interesting. Okay, so let me start with Spark. How can you strengthen your claircognizance? When I see this card, this is just such a good reminder of doing the things that light you up. This is like having fun, doing things that get you in a more creative zone, honestly, just in a zone where you feel more happy and more lifted and more excited and kind of that zest for life. And I feel like if you're not really in this zone, sometimes that can be a block to your psychic ability. Sometimes life gets you down, and when you're not doing things that, make you happy and make you excited, and you're doing it for you because you love it, like this is the things that like don't make you money necessarily, but fill your soul, light you up, make you feel like you're connected, you're doing something that is lifting up your heart and your soul. I hope I'm describing that well. Like when I think of this, like I think of painting, even like running or exercising or swimming. It's those things that are creative, that really light you up, that get you excited, that you could spend hours doing and the time just flies by. And so in regards to claircognizance, I feel like because we've been so down about it, having a little bit more excitement in life, having a bit more fun, just shifting your mood on a day-to-day basis by doing something more creative, you might actually find that that helps stimulate your claircognizance. But I also just kind of feel like this is an indirect thing of, okay, I just need some more happiness in my life, and when I can add that in, it's going to just improve your overall mood. So when you do come to trying to use your claircognizance, it's just a lot easier. And then with the Metamorphosis card, this card is really about, hey, you are entering into a new chapter. So I'm kind of now feeling more akin to if you are feeling like you are down and you are not having the best time with this Claire, it's going to end soon. You are at the end of the cycle. And I mean, it says that right here, the eternal cycle begins. And whenever there's death or whenever something is done, a new chapter starts. So this is a really good place to start honing a specific Claire because, you're starting a new chapter. You can spend some time on approaching it differently, kind of coming at it from a different angle. So really, I feel like the Metamorphosis card is coming in to say, hey, you got a lot of stuff going on right now. That's okay. I'm kind of feeling like the life stuff and the energy that's kind of going on day to day is sucking you a little bit, and that's okay. If you're working on that over here, it's going to improve everything on an intuitive side. So I kind of feel like this is saying, hey, it's okay if your claircognizance isn't quite there yet. You're going through a lot. You're going through a lot of changes, and it's going to be a lot easier when you kind of come on to the other side of it and you're feeling like, okay, that's all settled. I'm moving forward. That's the end of that chapter, and I'm now able to focus on this a little bit more. So I'm kind of feeling like the butterfly here is just like, be gentle with yourself. There's sometimes moments where your clairs are just not 100%, and that's okay. And I do think that as you change and kind of work on yourself and make sure you're having like a better, happier life in general, I think that it does impact our clairs. It helps us to become more centered. It helps us to connect more with our psychic ability. And I'm kind of feeling like that needs to come first. Taking care of yourself, having more fun, kind of getting out of these emotions, and kind of this dark chapter in your life will actually help with all of this. So then I asked, okay, where can you be using your claircognizance? And like what you should specifically be using it for. Now I did again get that like mediumship was good. Okay, and then we got Dancer of Friendship. To me, I feel like this card is actually saying to use your claircognizance, use your psychic abilities in your personal life, especially with relationships. I know it says friendship, but use it with your romantic relationships, use it with friends, family. Sometimes I feel like some people don't really take their psychic abilities into their personal life. But I think this will accomplish two things. One, it'll help you grow that claircognizance, but two, it will actually help you improve some of the friendships and relationships in your life, which will help with kind of like making sure you're more happy, making sure you are lit up, making sure that you are dancing. I was about to say that word and I didn't remember that it was here in this card. So really using your claircognizance to ask, hey, what should I go out and do this weekend? What should I, be looking forward to? What should I be manifesting? How should I, solve some of these emotions that I'm going through, and rely on your claircognizance there. Because maybe it will first help some of the life stresses going on, and then you'll be able to have a cleaner and clearer vessel to be able to use it on more spiritual things or just wherever you want to be able to use your claircognizance more. And then I asked for 2 exercises for what you could be using your claircognizance for. And I am pulling these out of the Build Your Psychic Skills card deck that I always recommend. My mentor made it. And it's funny because the card that I pulled for you is not actually an exercise card. It is kind of like a emotional, or not emotional, just like a pep talk card. And she kind of has these like thrown in multiple spots just to kind of give you encouragement. And this says, psychic information comes to you. Your conscious mind goes looking for information. Set your conscious mind aside by allowing insights to come towards you. So I feel like this is coming through as something I'm probably not talking about. And that's specifically, some of you are struggling with claircognizance because you're sitting more in this conscious mind, which I describe it as the left brain. And when we think about psychic information, we don't search for it. We don't want to have the energy of like grinding. Like I always think of where your mind is when you're in the middle of a test. It's like you're searching for information. You kind of have like a furrowed brow. It's like you're trying to grasp into the ether for the information that you need. And I think that this is how a lot of us think, but with psychic information and psychic ability, we don't want to go into that energy. We want the energy to come to us. We want it to flow to us. We want to sit and wait, which feels very counterintuitive because we don't want to wait around. You know, we're so go, 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 and that's what's so difficult. I feel like specifically for people in this day and age when our lives are so crazy fast and we're used to getting information like fast, fast, fast. But just remember, psychic information should not hurt. Like it should come to you. It should flow. It should be easy to access. So for some of you with claircognizance, you're definitely trying to stick way too much in that left brain. Go more into that right brain. And I have a whole video on this analogy in itself. So if this is new to you, definitely check that one out. Oh my gosh, I just realized you guys got the Psychic Play Day. So these cards are separated into different types of like days. And so Psychic Play Day is about understanding that you have to play and you have to have fun with your psychic ability. You have to use your imagination. That's the same part of your mind that you use your psychic ability for. And so it's very important for you guys to play with your psychic ability, play with your claircognizance. Okay. And so the exercise on this card, I love this exercise. This is about sending a telepathic message to a partner. And I've talked about this before, but you send a color to your partner and then they try to guess the color, and then you do the same. They send a color to you, you try to guess it. So try to maybe do that using your claircognizance. The other exercises that it has is pretend the dream from last night or another night contains insights to your problems or like decisions you're trying to make. What is the dream suggesting? And I totally forgot about this exercise. So this is basically saying, hey, let's just come up with a dream. You might have had it last night, you might have had it a different night, but let's just pretend it's actually in relation to, you know, this issue that you're going through. Maybe it's the fact that you're trying to develop your claircognizance. Let's say it's that. And so decoding your dream or kind of being like, okay, well, what's the energy of that dream? Does it have anything to do with it? And even if you know it doesn't, the key here is to pretend. Pretend and play are using your imagination. And your imagination is where the psychic ability comes from. That is the same skills, the same sort of part of your mind that you use to get psychic information. So although you're pretending and it might not actually be, you know, the correct information, we're engaging the intuitive mind. We're engaging that psychic mind and not that left brain conscious mind. And then what I'm doing for any last advice that we need, I am pulling some runes, okay, for you guys. And I'm kind of setting my center here, north, east, southwest. So we've got 2 runes in the south. So this one, I do not know if I'm saying this right, Dagaz, basically implies day or door. And I'm kind of feeling more of the door aspect of this. And it's like opening up the door to more opportunities. Are you shutting something out? What beginnings are coming in? What transitions are happening? That's kind of all in relation to what we've got going on here. And when it's in kind of the south part of this reading, I feel like it's all about the things you're excited about. So opening doors to what you're passionate about, what you're excited about, what you want to be doing, the things, again, that light you up. South is all about fire. I think you're absolutely going to start opening yourself up to your claircognizance as well. And I really actually feel like, as a whole, this is basically saying that you guys need to have more fun in life. And when you have more fun in life, your psychic abilities just open up more. And it makes sense with claircognizance, because claircognizance is all of your clairs. It's basically when you get it all at once and it's so fast and it's coming through so clearly. I kind of see claircognizance again as like the pinnacle, you know, the best, most connected way that you're receiving information. Some people would probably argue with me about that, but I really do feel like this is basically saying your life and how you live your day to day is so in tune, or so it matches so much of your intuitive ability. So if your day-to-day life is just meh, you know, you're gonna have a harder time opening up that clair. And then this is technically supposed to be facing that way if you're reading it correctly. This is the Kanaz, which is torch and fire. And it's about lighting that bulb, which is so funny because I usually associate claircognizance with like a light bulb. You know, it's an immediate, fast download. And the questions that, you know, you would kind of ask with the Kanaz is like, what's brightening your life right now? What darkness are you dealing with? Where do you need to let more life into your life, especially in regards to like passion and excitement and doing things that light you up? So I hope this message is clear to me. Again, it's very much about like when you have fun and when you're feeling connected and lit up in the world, your psychic ability is going to match that energy. It's going to be a lot easier for you to connect, which totally makes sense to me. So if you're curious about the decks I used, I do have them linked down below, and be sure to subscribe because I teach you guys all sorts of psychic development tips and tricks. So if you're wanting to learn how to develop that claircognizant skill even more and do some specific exercises for it, I have those resources on my channel. And remember to give this reading a big thumbs up, and just remember you can also book a private reading with me on my website. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, and I will see you next time. Bye. All right. That is interesting. So clairvoyance, we are starting with the Death card. The Death card. So basically I asked, okay, where are you guys at right now? Where is your clairvoyance skills at right now? And I would say it's so interesting because this is similar to the first pile, but it feels like the Death card here represents, again, for some of you, I feel like you're just struggling. Maybe clairvoyance is just not even there for you at all. But what I love about the Death card is that there's a promise of rebirth. When something dies, something new takes its place. Like even when we die, I personally believe that our soul just moves on to the next exciting chapter. We don't know what that looks like, but there's always a new fresh start. And because of that, I look at this card as like there's nowhere to go but up. The worst of it is sort of behind you. But I'm going to pull some more cards just to get a little bit of a differentiator for you in the last pile. Oh, okay. Not to say that they can't be the exact same. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we're feeling like we're not doing the best with a certain clair and we want to get better. But when we pull the World card, like this to me says that you guys absolutely have the potential to strengthen your clairvoyance and use it in such a beautiful way. And when we have the Death card right next to the World card, especially because I just shuffled my entire deck and we just got 2 major arcana cards. Like to me, this is saying your clairvoyance can literally be right around the corner. Like this woman is pulling back the curtain. She's afraid of what's on the other side. It kind of looks like a scary skeleton, but there's just like a person over here. And the World card, I feel like, is what's behind this curtain. And it's this beautiful, celebratory, like completely connected. When I think of the World card, I think of being 100% connected to that other side. Like I've pulled that card in relation to that. I've always asked, like, what does it look like after we die? I always pull this card. And so that's what I associate this card with. But in relation, to your clairvoyance, I feel like this is just fear. I feel like right now you are afraid of clairvoyance. Maybe you're afraid of what you're going to see. Maybe some of you are scared that you're going to see scary spirits. Maybe some of you are just afraid you won't ever be able to have that clairvoyance. I feel like for a lot of you, you've tried and it hasn't worked. And so it has made you doubt the whole entire thing. Like, can you even be psychic? Can you even connect to that side? But I feel like this card is basically saying if you can push that fear aside and realize that on the other side of this veil is the most beautiful connection to spirit that you could ever have. Oh, they're giving me chills. I feel like you're going to open up a completely new world with your clairvoyance. And I'm specifically getting that for some of you. You have that very specific block of thinking that when you start to see spirits, it's going to be scary or gruesome. Like I'm getting like Hollywood vibes. Like we see what spirits or ghosts look like in movies, and I don't feel like that's what spirits or ghosts look like. But with your imagination, like if you think that's what you're going to see, your imagination is going to conjure up exactly what you're setting the intention for. Does that make sense? I just feel like when I started my psychic ability and when I started seeing things, I expected to see things like I saw them in movies. And then it started happening because I was attracting those types of spirits, and also my mind was just blowing it out of proportion. Like, yes, I was getting intuitive hits, but then my analytical mind was adding on the scariness from movies. So if that feels like you, if you struggle with that, just know that the biggest thing that I feel like you can do is to just understand what spirit is like and what the psychic ability is. When you educate yourself more on it, you kind of remove those fears because you understand, oh, that's not real. That's what, the movies say about how this all works. So for some of you, it's definitely this fear of the unknown, fear that maybe you can't do it. And that is definitely coming through of like where you're at right now with this. Just gonna overlap this a bit. And so then I asked what your biggest obstacles are right now. And I do feel like I just covered the big one. But let's see what these cards have to say. So let me start with this forgiveness card. I really feel like this is kind of piggybacking on this fear of maybe you've had clairvoyant experiences, or maybe some of your other clairs are very strong and you are kind of just beating yourself up for your clairvoyance and not being able to work. It makes sense. That's such a common thing with clairvoyance. We want to be able to see things so badly because that's what the movies tell us you're supposed to do. But this is saying forgive yourself. Like forgive yourself for not having this clair honed, for not being able to see things perfectly. Understand that that is a block in itself. When you tell yourself, oh, I can't do it because blah, 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 you're basically setting the intention that you can't. So you really have to forgive yourself and forgive the fact, or I should say the stories that you're telling yourself, so you can allow that psychic ability, that clairvoyance to work for you. This card is so interesting. So the Trick or Treat card, this is from like my Halloween deck. I just want to read this from the book really quick. Ancient peoples understood that there were both mischievous and perhaps nasty spirits wandering around at nightfall at Halloween, as well as happier, more benevolent spirits. They thought that if they dressed up as spirits themselves or other frightening creatures, then they would not be recognized as human and attacked. The idea of causing a little chaos as one of these spirits was part of the imitation and the enjoyment of the night. The practice in medieval Britain was aptly called souling. So again, I am totally getting that for you guys. There is this fear of spirit, of what you are going to get. And if you are afraid of the psychic information that's going to come through, you're innately blocking yourself. You are unknowingly blocking your clairvoyance from working. And so just like with the benevolent spirits that it talked about and then the scary ones, understanding that, again, those ones can't hurt you. You can set the intention of who you're talking to. Like, I honestly feel like to recommend boundary setting for you guys so that you feel like, okay, I want to open up my clairvoyance, but I know my boundaries are good now, so I feel more comfortable doing it. And I feel like this really is a message of saying like, hey, this other world that you're a little freaked out by, it's okay. You know, you can set the intention of what you want to see and what you want to do. And they're telling me to share the fact that like I hardly ever encounter negative spirits anymore. And that's because I set my boundaries so strongly to never encounter them. And that can be your reality as well. But then they're also saying, because I feel like some of you guys really enjoy the spookier side of it, and that's totally fun and totally allowed, you know, obviously as long as you're being protected, but they're saying to me like, you know, even though they're scary, even though you might deal with a difficult spirit every now and then, you know you're protected. You don't have to be afraid of it. You have ultimate control over your body, yourself, your energy. No one can come in and like take over your body, any of that. Again, I feel like the big message here is like education. Like you guys just need to understand how it doesn't work so you can feel more confident. So now let's get into how, that's the same stinking card that I pulled last time, how you can strengthen your clairvoyance. So I pulled the Spark card, and this card, like I really think of the book, what's that book called? I think it's Letters to a Starseed. So I feel like if that is whatsoever calling you, I'll try to link that down below and you can check it out. But Letters to a Starseed, and it might even be Light is the New Black, I can't remember. But it's all about understanding that when you are in a place of high vibration, when you are doing things that light you up, that's the energy that you put out into the world, and that's the energy that you are going to attract. And I feel like because it's kind of coming out in relation to this trick or treat card, I actually feel like maybe some of the experiences that you've had in the past with your clairvoyance was because you weren't in this necessarily high vibrational state. Maybe you were attracting the wrong energies, and just understand again that you can choose what it looks like on the other side, and it can be beautiful and amazing. And whatever energy you're putting out into the world, it will be reflected back to you. So again, I feel like this is boundary setting, but also telling you that, hey, if you're constantly focusing on only talking to things of your highest and best good, or just honestly focusing on having fun and being excited and being lit up, as that author describes it, I think the fears will be a lot less. So even if you don't feel like you necessarily have a fear around like setting the intention and not talking to the right spirits, this could absolutely be about just making sure that your life is fun and uplifting and exciting. And when you have that energy, it's going to clear the path for you to open up your clairvoyance more. And I sort of talked about this a lot in pile 1. And I basically said, like, when you are happy, when life is better, your psychic ability just comes through a lot more naturally. It's a lot easier because you don't have all these other distractions in life. And so maybe getting into your more creative side, like she's playing a violin here, doing something that's actually more creative, like I'm hearing like painting or drawing for some of you guys, possibly even automatic writing. that might be something that actually increases your clairvoyance. Maybe it's just listening to music. Maybe it's like meditating to a soundtrack or listening to music that you really enjoy, and you might find that, oh, you know, my clairvoyance is definitely strengthening. All right, and then we have the coming apart card as another way that you can strengthen your clairvoyance. And kind of what I'm getting with this card is separating the past from the present. Separating all of the things that went wrong in the past, all of the, again, it's like this forgiveness of like, you guys are beating yourself up so much for where you're not at right now, and understand that that was a different time in your life, and you can absolutely step into your clairvoyance, but you can't keep letting the stuff from the past be in your energy. And so this is really about like taking that energy like apart and saying, you know what, I'm going to throw away what's not working for me. I'm going to throw away those old habits, those old ideals, the old things that I'm saying to myself. And I'm really separating it all out so that I can focus purely on what I need to be focusing on, which is honing it, boosting yourself up, focusing on your successes, focusing on the confidence of it, and focusing on both, you know, making sure you're taking care of yourself and having fun, creative energy in your life, but then again, also connecting with only high vibrational beings on that other side. Like, I'm just seeing this as very much pulling away the darkness from the things you have associated with clairvoyance. So maybe you have other blocks around this that are very associated with like your shadow side. And we need to separate that out and understand that that does not affect where we're at anymore now. We can change that narrative and we can move forward and let go of all of that old stuff. And so this next card, I asked, what should you be using your clairvoyance for specifically? And this card is the Spirit of Wisdom. And I'm just going to read from the book right here really quick. I am the Spirit of Wisdom. I put you in touch with the deeper levels of knowledge and transmute them into the gold of true understanding. With wisdom, you can only grow brighter, and your route becomes clearer with every breath. Watch for my star in the heavens and draw strength from my companionship as you walk the many tangled paths of life. And the key words for this are kind of facing doubts, clearing the way ahead, accessing wisdom. So I definitely feel like there needs to be some like block removal done, especially around like the things you tell yourself of what you can't do. But then focusing on using your clairvoyance to access wisdom that lightens your load, that brightens your light. Like, honestly, I'm getting like Akashic Records vibes from this, even if you don't necessarily know what the Akashic Records are or believe in them. To me, I feel like what they want you to use your clairvoyance for is connecting to that source of wisdom to help yourself. Like, a lot of times we want to jump into reading other people, or we want to talk to ghosts, you know, and do something cool like that. But this is saying, like, we want to up-level you. We want to expose you to some of the beautiful things that are on this side. And we really want you to just access that wisdom first for yourself. Like, I'm just getting very Akashic Records vibes. And if you don't know what the Akashic Records are, it's basically a imaginary, or some people believe it's a literal physical place. That's like a big book library in the sky. And when you go into this library and you pick up any book that you want and open it up, you can get any answer to any question. There are some cool meditations out there on it. And basically, this is saying anytime you have a question, like, and I feel like this is big stuff, not just like, ooh, what should I do for the weekend? I feel like this is like when you're making big spiritual, like, I feel like it's almost like existential questions, like, where do we go when we die? Like, again, like, the fact that I brought that up says a lot about you guys as a pile, like, really using your clairvoyance to see what's in that Akashic record book and to see the information that you're supposed to understand. And I really feel like it's the bigger stuff. It's those big life questions. And I feel like because you're more interested in that type of thing, I feel like you are going to put more effort into developing your clairvoyance versus like, oh, I'm going to do, a precognitive calendar. I just, as much as I love that, I feel like you guys should be using it to kind of access this next level of spirituality for yourself. And then I'm pulling exercises from this Build Your Psychic Skills 90-day plan. There are 90 cards in here, and each of them have a different exercise for the day. And you can carry it with you and kind of do the exercises for that day. I pulled them at random. And the exercises that I got, I'm kind of feeling the mala beads here. So this says using a string of beads as you meditate. And this is basically holding on to each piece of that bead and focusing on it and then saying like a mantra or a word for each individual bead. And there's a certain number in it. I want to say 180. I could be wrong. And there's a magical thing to being able to say it 180 times. I think that's like an Indian tradition, I want to say. But because this is like the mental focus day card, I actually feel like, and I'll hold this up closer if you want to read the other exercises on it. But I feel like mental focus for you guys, I kind of feel like part of what's maybe blocking your clairvoyance is just that you're too much in your mental head and you kind of need to slow down and meditate, get centered before you actually do a reading. I feel like that is probably one of the most neglected things that we don't do. Sometimes we just want to jump straight into the psychic work and not get centered. You don't have to meditate. There's all sorts of different things you can do to get centered. I need to make a video on that. That's such an important piece, and I feel like I don't talk about it enough. And then with this card, oh, it's so funny. Do something on your mental focus list. So definitely like mental focus. I feel like this, when it says mental focus, like I really see this as getting centered and calming down before you start to do anything intuitively. Shut up. And then it has the calendar precognition. That's so funny. Well, maybe I'm wrong about the calendar precognition, but this is something you can absolutely do. Actually, and I do feel like that specifically might be helpful for those of you who want to do your clairvoyance but maybe aren't interested in the Akashic records. Doing my precognitive calendar, you can print that out, and purposely only doing that whole entire calendar with your clairvoyance, and I'll link that down below as well. And I have a video explanation too on how to do that. All right, and then for the last piece of advice, I'm just asking if there's anything else we need to know about our clairvoyance. All right, and I have the blank one, which technically I was supposed to take out, but if you do pull the blank rune, this rune is basically saying, come back at another time, like ask again. So I do feel like there's more to your clairvoyance that is going to have to be worked on. This isn't all of it. Like I actually feel like what this rune is more trying to say is that you're always going to have blocks. Like you are not going to be perfectly blockless when it comes to your clairvoyance. And I feel like some of you that might be a hard pill to swallow, but understand that psychic ability and removing blocks is a constant thing. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be hard or anything. I do find that over time, those blocks in some ways become easier to remove. But I feel like that is kind of what that card is talking about. So the last two runes that we have Dagaz, I do not know if I'm saying that right, and Jera. And Jera is about harvest, and Dagaz is about like doors, daytime, opportunities. And the fact that these are a little close together to me kind of says like, are you opening the doorway for new opportunities? Or are you even opening the doorway to see the harvest, the things you are doing good at, the things in your life that are fantastic? Like, I feel like this is ultimately a message of focus on what's working. Focus on what you are already good at. And remember to celebrate those successes. And when it comes to clairvoyance, and honestly, all of our clairs, it feels like sometimes we get so caught up in what we're not doing right that we forget to appreciate what we are doing right. So I feel like with this, if you do get a little bit of a clairvoyant hit, remember to celebrate that. Get excited about it. And even if you're getting it with another clair, that's okay. I think sometimes we feel like we can only, strengthen one clair at a time. And I feel like, I feel partially responsible because that kind of seems like how it's coming across in a lot of my videos. But really, if you're strengthening any clair, you are going to strengthen the others. That's just how it works. And so if you have to strengthen your overall psychic ability and, focus on a different clair for a while, that's okay. The more you practice, the more your other clairs will start to work as well, I promise. Alrighty, you guys, I hope that was helpful. I will link all the things that I talked about, including all of these decks down below, including these really cool runes if you like them. And then please remember to subscribe if you are new here, and just know that I have a ton of psychic development tips and videos here on my channel. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and just remember you can book a private reading with me on my website. Alrighty, you guys, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye. Alrighty, so this pile is clairaudience, psychic hearing. Oh my gosh. I'm laughing because every pile's card that I start with is so I'm pulling major arcana cards and you guys are just doubting your psychic abilities all over the place. I mean, it makes sense. That's probably why you're here on my channel. But I'm just giggling to myself. We had the death card. I think, what else did we have? We had something else, but the tower card. Okay, so this is where you guys currently feel like you're at with your clairaudience. You're just nothing is working. I'm falling out of the building. The building's on fire and there's thorns down here. Okay. I'm just going to pull one other card like I did the last pile just to get a clarifier. Okay. Because yes, the tower card is probably that. You're not trusting your energy. You're not trusting the clairaudience stuff that's coming through. Really, the tower card is all about things falling apart and things not working. But it's a good thing because it's basically saying this tower is not stable. We need to bring it down. And sometimes it's the universe bringing it down. And well, that is what it means in this card. So for you, it's probably been very frustrating because it feels like you've been trying to put in the work, but things are just not happening. Either you're not getting information, the information you're getting is wrong, or it's just overall hard for you to access. And I feel like it's because your guys are kind of saying, hey, the way you're approaching it maybe is not the best way to approach it. So in a lot of ways, your foundation is kind of forced crumbling right now. But the great thing about that is you can actually build a new foundation. You can build a new tower that works better, that's more structurally, there. And what I love about this, I wish I actually had the Rider-Waite tarot, because it's literally three guys building a tower or building a structure together. And so this one visually is just a little bit different. But what I love about this is it's basically saying, and I actually feel like the majority of you are kind of coming out of this tower moment and you're more on the side of rebuilding. And so maybe it's that some of you are just completely new to clairaudience. Maybe it's that it just wasn't working before and you're trying to understand how to do it better. But the great thing is that you're moving into this zone of, okay, I'm going to actually get outside opinion. I really feel like this is working with others and working to understand what you don't understand about it. And I think that's what happened the first time around. Maybe you've been fairly clairaudient. I actually feel like for a lot of you guys, this might be your strength. And maybe you just didn't know how to use it or how to strengthen it the right way, and it just kind of fell apart. And now you're like, okay, I need to get more educated about it. I need to understand how it works and how it doesn't work. And so this to me is definitely bringing in outside opinion. This could be finding a mentor. This could be, working with a group, going to classes. I feel like you learn so much more when you are in a classroom setting because you get the feedback from the teacher, you get to work with other people. So to me, this is definitely saying for your clairaudience to succeed, it's coming back and rebuilding this tower, but in a way where you're getting new information. You're taking in other things and you're rebuilding it better and not trying to do it all yourself. Not saying that you can't grow your clairaudience yourself, but it's more like you just didn't have the foundation and the understanding, and so now you're kind of learning, oh, I can grab a book, I can watch some videos, I can take a course, I can kind of learn about this a little bit more. So this is a great spot to be in, honestly. And if you're not completely here yet, that's a good message of where we need to be moving into next. So the next cards that I pulled, I wanted to ask what your biggest blocks are right now to your clairvoyance. And I have the apple and ghost. Okay, so for some of you, I actually feel like this is like that you bit off more than you could chew the first time around. Like, I'm getting specifically that maybe you started with a different clair, or maybe you just got really open really fast and you kind of got thrust into this a little quicker than you expected. And so you jumped in and, you know, it was a little scary and you kind of had to pull back, and that's why things fell apart. But I think this is encouraging you to not be afraid to, I don't want to say take risks as if like don't protect yourself or don't have boundaries, but understand that you do have that now. Like, you do have these resources. If you're like new to this, obviously my channel here is a resource. And now you have this, it's okay to feel like you can move forward and embrace your clairaudience and embrace psychic hits that are coming your way and not be afraid of them, because it's not the same anymore. Like, when you went in before risky, it kind of had a really bad, it was the opposite of a reward. It was a failure. and I shouldn't even say that, but I'm just joking about this card. But now it's saying, no, there's going to be more of a reward. You're putting in the time and the effort, and you're taking a risk by coming back to your clairaudience, honestly. You're taking a risk by trying to understand this and trying to remove your blocks and using that clairaudience more. And because of that, you're going to be rewarded. Like, you're going to see the effects. You are going to see it. You're going to see those clairaudient hits. And really what I'm like getting is like, you guys, I feel like for the amount of piles that I've read already, I feel like you guys have it easiest. I feel like you're already getting clairaudient hits. It's more just about quantity for you guys. And I feel like I'm really not getting a whole lot of obstacles for you guys, to be honest. I actually feel like you guys are already getting a lot of clairaudient stuff, and it's just a matter of just getting back into it and putting more time into it. It's just like, I feel like there's a little bit of hesitancy because of where it was in the past. And even if you didn't have like a big scary moment here, this could just be that you came at it wrong, or you didn't have the education or the resources, and so you kind of gave up on it. And so really the fear here that you have to get over is, you know, oh, well, maybe I can't do it this time around. And that makes sense with this ghost card. The ghost is about like regret, and it's about focusing on the things that are no longer there. And I feel like there's probably just a lot of mental blocks around regret. And, you know, I would dive into, where are you feeling regretful around your psychic ability? It could be very specific to psychic ability, or you could have other stuff going on in your life that is causing this regret, is causing you to feel like, oh, I messed up the first time. And I'm so focused on the past that I'm not able to focus on the present and move forward. And really, I'm just seeing this purely as like a mental block that might be kind of blocking your clairaudience. But I do feel like for the most part, it's talking about the regret that you didn't start sooner, the regret that you didn't start in a better way. For some of you, I'm hearing like this is excuses that you have now of like, oh, well, I don't have a group that I could go find. Oh, I don't have a mentor. Oh, I don't have the time. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways that's the same energy. It's just regret in the future. And it's kind of holding you back. So come at this with a more risky energy. And when I say risky, I just mean like do it. Like, jump in and do it. And don't be afraid of what could go wrong. You know, don't focus on that. Focus on, you know, I have the foundation, I'm rebuilding. It's going to be a lot easier for me this time around because I have all the tools that I need. All right, so let's pull what is actually going to help you strengthen your psychic ability. Specifically, clairaudience. The Virgo necessity to have them all be straight and then them not be straight is just driving me nuts. All right, so how can we strengthen this? Come together. This to me is definitely affirming this card. Like, you guys need a group. You need classmates. You need somebody to practice with. And I always advocate going and finding a metaphysical store nearby and practicing in person. I feel like you just need encouragement. And if you're really somebody who's like, no, I don't want to go out and practice with other people, you're just maybe not there yet, that's okay. Find encouragement from other people. It could be online, you know, just, I think you guys need to focus more on the positive, less on the regret, less on what didn't work the first time, and move into, you know, finding support and finding things, people that will help you support and grow your clairaudience. And then the other thing you can do to strengthen your clairaudience, I have the Sacred Pool card. To me, this is like self-care alone time. This is doing the things that you need to do to face the shadow work, to let go of that past. I don't want you guys staying there too long. Like, I just feel like you guys can simply be like, you know what, this isn't going to affect me, and that's good enough. But if you feel like you really need to work through some old stuff around your clairaudience or just your psychic abilities in general, like, this is an invitation to do so. Like, I really see this as like taking a bath, journaling, you know, working with the full moon to release things. Whatever it is that you do to kind of work through your emotions and face the things that are triggering you in life so they won't be such a big deal and blocking your psychic ability. All right. And then I asked, oh my gosh, that's too funny. I shuffled these cards, I swear. So I asked what you guys need to be using your clairaudience for specifically. And then this card is Spirit of Wisdom. And I pulled it for the last pile, which is why I was laughing. Although I am getting kind of like a different message with this card. And I really feel like this is actually connecting with your spirit guides, getting a more established relationship with spirit. Because I feel like when you understand that you've got good people on your side in spirit, and I shouldn't even say people, but good beings looking out for you, I feel like you're going to trust the process more. You're going to feel a little bit safer. And then specifically with your clairaudience, being able to try to hear them, I honestly feel like you guys already hear them, and it's just like a big thing of like, is that them or is that my thoughts coming through? And that's definitely a challenge in itself with clairaudience. And I'm just going to pull one more card for where you guys should be using this. Ooh, Shaman of Foresight. Interesting. All right, sorry everyone, my mic died. If that was a weird cut, I apologize. But I feel like focusing on precognition here is definitely going to be helpful, and really using your clairaudience to get precognitive hits. So there's a lot of precognitive exercises that you can do, like asking which line will be the shortest, you know, which meal should I get at this restaurant. Basically playing little psychic games about the future, like who's going to call me next, and expect to hear that clairaudiently. But again, I feel like connecting with your guides and asking them for the clairaudient hits, I feel like they're going to give you a lot of very specific things that'll help you more than necessarily than I can just in this reading, if that makes sense. All right, and then I asked for exercises that you can be doing, and I use the 90-day psychic cards that my mentor made, and so each of these cards is like a different day, and you can put it in your purse, take it with you, and basically remember to do these exercises each day. So this first pink card. I was drawn to the, as you go through your day, do a scan of the energy inside of your body from head to feet, asking how it feels. So I would try to do that, but ask your guides to give it to you clairaudiently, because when we think about that exercise, that's probably a more clairsentient exercise, but they're kind of saying flip it on its head and ask. Ask for a word instead. So kind of do a body scan and be like, okay, how's my head today, guides? And you might hear them say something like, you are way too overwhelmed, chill out. And then you might say, okay, what about my body? And they're like, oh, your back is hurting. Maybe you should do this. So try to hear that information that's coming through. I also feel like the reason why the body scan specifically was coming up is maybe you do need to be paying a little bit more attention to your body throughout the day, just to kind of help you out and make you feel better. And then we have the mental focus card, this yellow card. Honestly, I feel like kind of what's coming through, because there's so many exercises on these, I'm actually getting for you guys to play a lot of these psychic games. I have a lot in my like playlists, but for example, playing with the color cards. At the back of this deck, there's a bunch of like color cards. I've got a video on this deck specifically, but I also have like how you could do this with playing cards. And that's to basically put them all face down and try to guess which card is which using your clairaudience. Using the flower to ask questions as you go about your day, that's definitely like a foresight thing. That's a precognition technique of imagining a flower in your mind, and then actually instead of imagining the flower, instead of seeing it, what you want to do is you want to say, hey, there's a flower here. I want to know about something that's coming up today. Is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing? And then the flower, you want to have your guides tell you what the flower is doing. So maybe you hear it crumpling up, or maybe you hear it like blooming, and maybe there's like sounds of birds chirping or something. So it's kind of about taking some of these exercises and putting the clairaudient technique onto it, because I feel like you guys are kind of having to be a little bit more innovative with it, and innovative in the sense that like a lot of my exercises I say to do it one way, but like you can change any of the clairs out on any of the exercises that I talk about. And then it says go to your private place 3 times a day. This to me is kind of like your psychic sanctuary, just meditating. And I feel like, again, that might be in a little bit relation to this sacred pool. Honestly, though, with the shaman of foresight coming up, I feel like I also want to tell you guys to maybe try shamanic journeying, but try shamanic journeying not visualizing, and try it only hearing. I'd be interested if you went to your private place, you could shamanic journey to your private place, your psychic sanctuary is what I like to call it. And then you can only try to hear what is in your psychic sanctuary. I think we get so focused when we meditate that we have to do it clairvoyantly, but I feel like especially with these mental focus cards, because I feel like this card I'm more drawn to, I feel like it's definitely about calming down and actually spending the time to hone your clairaudience. Like some of the other piles have been more about removing blocks. I feel like for you guys, it's literally just doing the exercises. And so I feel like if you're going and you're meditating and you're going to your psychic sanctuary several times a day, 3 times a day is a lot, but maybe you just do it every night before bed, or, first thing in the morning. And if you're doing that and only focusing on your clairaudience, I mean, I feel like if you did a couple days of that, you would see so much improvement. All right. And then for my last piece of advice, I am throwing some runes on the table. So this rune is, like, technically that's the right side up. This is Laguz. I'm probably not saying that right. And that's all about like movement. And I'm kind of visualizing this board being cut into like north, south, east, west. And I kind of feel like it's right on the edge between south and west. And usually that's about like your passions and your intuition. So just having movement around that, getting excited about your psychic ability again, making movement, making progress by doing exercises, I think is absolutely going to help. And then this is yuas, and it's actually horses. Like it's symbolizing like two horses, maybe like kissing, if you can sort of visualize that. And with it being in the kind of like the north side of the screen, I guess you would call it, I feel like this is saying like, whoa, you need to slow down, especially in your more practical life. Like north represents kind of like our day to day. And this rune is kind of about, whoa, slowing down. Where do you need to kind of back up, take a step back? Which makes sense with kind of like the Tower card. Like remember at the end of this, like first we need to start with kind of releasing the old, pausing, getting rid of all of that stuff first, focusing on taking time for yourself, and then we can start moving forward into strengthening your psychic ability. But make sure you're kind of slowing down in your more practical day-to-day life to be able to help you with this. And I also feel like that's kind of in relation to like the mental focus of what I was talking about, of making sure you're actually physically like sitting down and doing these exercises and not trying to do them like passively in 2 seconds. Alrighty, you guys, I hope this was helpful. I will make sure I link all the decks and everything that I use down below. And if you're new here, please subscribe. I have all sorts of psychic development tips and tricks on my website, including exercises. So if you're feeling excited and you want to move forward, you can absolutely go peruse around my other playlists. And remember to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And remember, you can book a private reading with me on my website as well. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye. Alrighty, so this pile is for clairalience and clairgustance. I'm very interested to see how this pile is going to turn out, because I feel like most people don't really think about strengthening it. I feel like it's, for a lot of us, not very strong for several of us, and so it can be a little bit difficult. So let's see what this is all about. All right. That makes so much sense. So this first card that I pulled, I was basically asking what, where we're at now with our clairalience and clairgustance. And the fact that we got 5 of Cups, to me, the number 5 is all about like challenges, hardship. Like I feel like we view this Claire as being a very tough thing to approach. And especially with Cups, like Cups is your intuition. There's some cups that are standing, there's some cups that are spilled over. Overall, we're just very like sad about it. Maybe we've tried, maybe it's not working. It's kind of interesting to me, the emotion on this card, because I even feel like personally, when I think of clairgustance and clairalience, I'm not like sad about it that I don't have it. So I kind of don't feel like that's necessarily right for us. If anything, maybe it's that, because like, side note, when I see her, like I totally think of, is it Isabella in Encanto? For some reason, she's just giving me that vibe. And I think that's a symbolic message of like family, because that's kind of what that whole movie was about. So maybe it's that, really the only times that we do get clairalience and clairgustance is like in relation to family, maybe like spirits that have passed, or, I mean, heck, it could even just be like when we're down about our gifts, and the only time that we do get it is like when all of our other gifts aren't working, and then all of a sudden we're getting like smells or tastes kind of out of nowhere. All right, so that is kind of where we're at. And then the next question that I had was, what are our blocks around clairgustance and clairalience? Protection and intuition. Interesting. So this is the jack-o'-lantern card, but the protection is really like sticking out to me. I'm actually kind of wondering if we are overly protecting ourselves. And not that I'm like saying like we're overly protecting ourselves from like spirit, that's very important. But I kind of almost think that this is like an intention thing of like, oh, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to work. So I'm kind of blocking it. Like I'm putting up a protection and it's not happening. Or maybe, and I also think that maybe for some of you, maybe you have gotten that smell and those tastes, and they really freak you out because it feels so real. And you may have like picked up on, again, like a person or a spirit, and it felt so real that it really freaked you out, and so you really like put up your protection around it. I'm just getting like several things for this card for different like groups of you. I also do feel like some of you are really probably good with your clairgustance and clairalience, and you get it probably a lot. And this is just saying, remember to set up the protection so that you're not smelling and tasting things all the time. Obviously, in a literal sense, you need to do that, but in a psychic sense, like I'm kind of getting like your attitude is, oh, well, it's working, and this one never comes through as much, so I should just let it come in all the time, anytime. And this is saying, remember to still have those energetic boundaries around it. Now, it's interesting that we pulled up the intuition card as a block. And I just heard, because I asked, okay, what about this intuition card is a block? And I just heard the lack of intuition. So to me, I feel like this is actually pretty simple. It's basically saying the reason why we're not getting clairalient or clairgustant hits is because we're just not dedicating the time or the energy or the intention to receive in that way. I feel like we're just like, I feel like we're actually using all the other tools, because like here you see like a pentagram, which could be used for like ritual work. You're seeing crystals, you're seeing a bone, which bones are like often associated with runes. You're seeing a crystal ball, which is a form of scrying. Candles, which could be meditating. I kind of feel like we're using all the other tools and we're just simply not paying attention to this. But I feel like if we sat down and looked at it just as much as a tool as any of these other things, it wouldn't be so much of a block. But I'm also getting with this card is to combine your clairalience and your clairgustance with some of these tools. So like as you're using crystals, okay, that's so cool. They're telling me to like assign a smell or a taste to a crystal. Like don't put it in your mouth, that's like cheating. But like ask for like a smell in association with a crystal. So like you might have like a, I don't know, like a yellow crystal, and all of a sudden you smell sunflowers and you know, oh, sunflowers, that's that crystal. And then maybe like what happens later on is that you ask, oh, what crystal should I use? And you smell sunflowers and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to use that yellow crystal. So I'm getting to kind of introduce your psychic smelling and tasting with the stuff that you already do. So if you scry, I mean, even if it's not depicted in this picture, it's like forcing yourself to find a creative way to implement that clair into that practice. That's very cool. All right, let's now shut the front door. Every single pile, this card has come up in this exact same position, and I have shuffled, I swear. Gosh, okay. Perfect. Okay, so these cards, I'm just gonna pull one more clarifier on this. Okay. So these cards are how you can develop your clairalience and clairgustance better. So I'm going to just start over here with education. That makes total sense. Just understanding how they work, trying out exercises. You know, I feel like education a lot of times comes from literal just practice, like learning from your mistakes and from trial and error. I feel like that's what this card is about, is like just understanding it and doing it can sometimes help you strengthen a clair so much, because sometimes, you know, you could just be blocked by what you don't know, if that makes sense. Now, this spark card, and if you haven't listened to the other piles, that's okay. The spark card is basically about doing what lights you up. I feel like it's very much, I'm asking if I'm saying this wrong, is that why it keeps coming up? But I don't think that's the case. I think it's just such an important piece to developing all these clairs. But this is when you're in that zone of being creative, of loving life, of just like enjoying everything, being in the flow and doing something that you love. Maybe it's singing, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's being out with good people and friends. It's the spark that lights you up and gets you excited about life. And let's see, I just wanted to pull one clarifier because I was just doubting myself and if I was getting these right. And this is into the unknown. And my brain immediately went to Elsa. Just checking if that's intuitive. Yes, okay. Heck, I wonder if it is singing for some of you. That would be an odd way. I guess I shouldn't say that, but an interesting message to come through that to increase your clairalience and clairgustance, you need to sing. Oh, okay. Okay, so let me just give these messages. Sorry, I'm all over the place. So, into the unknown. I do feel like, one, this is definitely saying that we just don't understand this clair. It feels like just nothing is coming through. Like this woman who's blindfolded, it just feels like, what are we doing? I don't understand this. Again, I feel like that education piece will help. And then as far as the blindfold, I actually feel like this might be an exercise for some of you where if you are getting like overstimulated by some of your other clairs, maybe put a blindfold on yourself and forcing, yourself to not focus on like sights, sounds, feelings, kind of blocking out those other clairs potentially, and really focusing on your nose and your mouth and the tastes that come up in your mouth. Like there's something about kind of numbing out the other clairs, like shutting them off, that is going to help you better. And I mean, I'm literally seeing it as like closing your eyes, trying to be in a very quiet space, so you're not distracted by music, you're not distracted by visuals, being comfortable so you're not distracted by like how you feel. And then maybe when you're in that space, it'll be a lot easier to tell the different tastes and smells that are coming in. That's actually a really cool suggestion. Okay, and then in relation to this card, I kind of feel like this is just also saying like, you're maybe embarking on new exciting things that will kind of light you up, like that will get your creativity going. And to kind of just follow it, because this into the unknown card is often, I can't get these straight. It's often about like following your intuition even though you don't know the outcome. So like I feel like your guides are giving you these little seeds of like, hey, go follow this. This might be fun and interesting. And because of it, you might end up developing like some cool new hobby or something that you're really excited about. So I do feel like some of this is like use your psychic abilities to find what lights you up, to find that spark and that creativity that you want to have. And I've talked about this before, but sometimes just enjoying life and like doing things that light you up and make you have fun, you just get more into a more receptive state. So it's a lot easier for you to use your psychic abilities in general. I'm just noticing too, we have a 7 and then a 7, like 3 and 4 make 7. So I feel like heck, for some reason, the number 7 is probably associated with like clairalience and clairgustance. Maybe pay attention when you see it, and maybe it's your guides trying to be like, hey, use your clairgustance, or hey, we just gave you a smell or something. 7s are also kind of like, in my mind, associated with struggle and then strength. And so like, again, coming out of this mindset of looking at all of this as a struggle and more moving into, no, this could be like my strength. I could smell and taste information and it could be just as strong as some of my other clairs. All right. And then I asked where you should be using your clairalience and clairgustance. Interesting. And I got shaman of stars, and like immediately going to astrology. So maybe I'm so curious, like let me know in the comments below like if this resonates and how you guys would interpret doing this, because like if you somehow combined like clairgustance and clairalience with astrology, I'd be so interested to see how that manifests. Shaman of the stars though, I feel like for some of you that's just that you're very connected with astrology and maybe connecting to the stars. And there might be something about like, I mean, I'll just say what I'm getting, but like associating a smell or a taste with maybe like each sign, heck, or maybe as you look into the night sky, if you're like familiar with where constellations are, like asking, what does that smell or what does that taste like? And then I'm kind of just feeling like they're trying to give you more things. Like they're almost saying like the issue with clairgustance and clairalience for all of us is that we only know so many like sights and or sound or sorry we only know so many smells and tastes, and usually we just associate those with food. But if we were saying that like, oh, okay, anytime I get a message and this person is a Leo, I'm going to smell this specific smell. But right now we don't associate those two things together, so we just don't get hits that way. I hope I'm making sense, but it's almost like if you had this dictionary of like, oh, this thing is equal to this smell, this thing is equal to that smell, I feel like you would start to get it more. You would start to get those psychic hits a lot more if you kind of had an already like preset, like I wanted to use the word dictionary because it feels like we need to create our own language of what smell or what taste is associated with different things. Because then when we're doing like a reading for ourselves and others, and maybe like they're telling me like, oh, assign a meaning to like warning or caution, like slow down, don't go this direction. And so if you had a taste that tasted that way, that was like caution, then, you know, as you're walking into a situation that maybe is potentially bad for you, all of a sudden you might taste that. But right now it's like totally that we just don't have those meanings assigned. So that's why our other clairs are being preferred. I kind of feel like this is like the new key that I feel like they're coming through with clairgustance and clairalience, and really how to take it to the next level. I'll have to start including that in my new videos. And then I had these cards from this 90-day psychic, build your psychic skills deck that my mentor made. And each of these is like a different card for a different day. And you carry it around with you and you do the exercise for it. Oh, interesting. I pulled the same one as last time, I think. Okay. So this is meditating at the same time of the day. And then as you go through your day, do a body scan from your head to your feet. Oh, this is different. Sorry. And then get psychic insights using clairaudience hearing. Interesting. So the part that's sticking out to me is actually the clairaudience part. And it's almost like they're saying to use your clairaudience to help develop the clairgustance and clairalience. So you might be having to ask your guides again what those meanings are, and you might be having to like double check using your clairaudience. But for some reason, maybe your clairaudience is going to help you develop those a little bit better. And then this card, so this is, she calls it an elevator meditation, but I actually think it's a form of pranayama, which is like just a breathing meditation. And basically you imagine, I'll use this little guy as an example. You imagine an elevator going up the front of your body and then down the back of your body. And I think as you breathe in, you imagine that elevator going up, and as you breathe out, you imagine the elevator going down. But it's interesting how it says, put your tongue on the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth. So I'm getting two things. I'm getting that just that overall exercise and doing that might just for some reason be like a super helpful exercise for clairgustance and clairalience. I'm also just feeling like this sentence right here is just its own thing. Put your tongue on the roof of your mouth just behind the teeth. And maybe it's that while you're trying to do this, like literally we just need to hold our tongue still and keep it in a certain spot in our mouth. So we're not tempted to like taste whatever is in our mouth, like if you just ate, or you know what I mean? That's super cool that came up actually. And then I'm going to go ahead and ask for any last advice using the runes. All right. Let's see what we got. Okay. So these these runes up here are kind of all in the north side of this like reading that I'm doing, which is all about like being more practical and kind of coming at this from a very practical angle. And so when I think of that, I think of like doing the exercises, kind of sitting down to really practice all of this. Again, like when you do the other exercises, learning about it, it's just kind of actually putting in the hard work. It's less like mental and more just do it and figure it out and play with it and get a familiarity with it, because we have like natural skills and abilities right here. We also have forward motion and focused intention. So to me, this is all just about just doing it, moving forward, making it happen. And then this one way out here, oops. Oh, and I will say the one that was upside down, that kind of means that we're definitely like ignoring the fact that we just need to take action on it, which makes sense. Like we're just so like, oh, it's not going to work at the current moment. And then this last rune over here, so this is all about like, so this is like torch or light. And so when it's coming through on this east side over here, we're kind of trying to shine the light on our mental state. Like where are we mentally blocking ourselves, and where can we mentally kind of like shift our attitude to feel like we can do this and be successful at this, which is kind of interesting when we have the torch in relation to this card into the unknown. I feel like that's very much saying like we have to trust that we're going to get there, even though we're just not seeing the results at all right now. Alrighty, you guys, I hope that this helped. Please, please, please let me know how this goes for you. I'm curious if anyone just like purposely chose this pile too. I feel like most people just skip this one. But I will link all the decks that I use down below, and remember to subscribe. I have a ton of exercises here on psychic development, and I will absolutely help you guys as much as I can with understanding your psychic abilities. And give this video a big thumbs up, and just remember you can book a private reading with me on my website at any time. Alrighty, you guys, thank you so much. I will see you next time. Bye. Alright, so for my final pile, we have clairsentience, and we are starting off with the High Priestess. The High Priestess is such a great card to get because I asked where we're at now. So that's what this card represents. And really where we are at right now is we are on top of our clairsentience. Like the High Priestess is like one of the most intuitive cards in the deck. So like to me, this is like your guides being like, there's not a whole lot of room for improvement. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah. I feel like, and if you don't feel like you're here, if you feel like your clairsentience like sucks and you don't feel like you're part of that group, this is saying like you are naturally clairsentient. Like this is going to be your strong suit. Honestly, all you have to do is remember what it feels like and how to get back in tune with it. But I feel like for the majority of you, it's actually saying, hey, you're doing a pretty good job with it. And maybe you're just not giving yourself enough credit. But let's start by seeing kind of what your blocks are. Interesting. So we got dawn. Ooh, and graveyard. Okay, so I'm getting like a ton of things here. So when I think of graveyard and dawn, I'm also thinking like night and day. And I wonder if the obstacles that you might face are that this is something that you kind of have to be aware of all day and all night. You know, your clairsentient skill is very much related with like your physical feelings. And so taking care of your body in a way where you're, you know, nurturing it night and day can sometimes be difficult, and we're not always consistent about that. And then reading more into like the description, the light after the darkness and unnecessary fear, I kind of feel like this is saying, like when you guys do feel like you're not doing or having good clairsentient abilities, you're kind of doubting that it'll come back. And this is basically saying that light will return, that ability will be here, just sometimes it's not, and that's okay. Sometimes we can't connect, sometimes life happens, sometimes we're blocked, but I think we need to really get out of like the mentality of, you know, oh, I failed once, so it's probably not going to keep happening for me. So that's just, I'm getting kind of a mental block. And I just want to point out the owl and the moon here, both a sign of intuition. We also have the moon there and there Interesting. So like, I'm really just getting still that you guys are very intuitive and this will come so naturally to you. So these are really just more like little things. Unnecessary fear. So maybe it's that you are worried you're not going to be able to connect. I think some of you, that's the case. I think some of you are worried of what you might feel, and that can be a little scary and overwhelming. You're worried that you're going to let in too much. Or get overwhelmed and not be able to set those boundaries. But again, you guys are the high priestess when it comes to clairsentience. Like, she knows the boundaries. She knows how to handle it. So I really feel like this is saying kind of give yourself more credit, get out of the mentality of I can't do it, because I actually feel like you guys are really good at it. Another message that I'm getting as far as obstacles is that maybe some of you guys try to like read or do intuitive work at night, or some of you guys try to read or do intuitive work in the day, and maybe it needs to be flopped. Like maybe you're doing it at kind of the wrong time that's not best suited for your body. Like, I am not a morning person, and so I cannot do important tasks in the morning. And really, the night, if I could work like all night, I totally would. And so this is kind of understanding like when is the best time for you to get in touch with your clairsentience, because it's so in relation to your body that your body needs to be feeling good. So identifying what part of the day is like the best time to do intuitive work, I think is also important for you guys. All right, so now let's move into the things we can do to strengthen our clairsentience. Awesome. So we got the education card again, and I will say, if for those of you, if any of you have watched all of these piles, I freaking pulled that same spark card again when I was shuffling, and I was just like, no, give me something else. I have pulled one card in one position for every single pile. And it's not that I'm like trying to deny like the information coming through, but my guides were trying to get a message to me personally, and I finally was like, all right, I hear it. Get it. And they were basically saying, hey, you're doing what you love right now. Isn't that awesome? And I'm like, yes, thank you. So education, I feel like clairsentience will be strengthened the more you guys learn about it. And I also feel like this education card is all about like practice as well. You learn by doing. You don't always learn just by reading a book. And so maybe you guys have been very like passive about the way that you've been understanding your clairsentience, but actually try to get out and practice doing it. Like, there's a difference between reading a book and then going and taking a Reiki class in person. So try to learn as much as you can about clairsentience, and maybe that will make you feel more confident in what you can and can't do. Especially with this magical map shifter, like I see this as the manifestation card. How you can get in touch and strengthen your clairsentience more really just comes down to setting the intention that you will do it. Like manifest that it will happen. So for you guys, it could just be that you put things around your home to remind yourself that you are clairsentient. Or maybe you put little affirmations in your phone or something. I think this is very much about understanding that it has to start in your head. And when you say it so, it will manifest into reality. Like this guy is imagining all of these things, and then they come into reality and they are real physical things. With this card, I just feel like what your guides are suggesting as well is just like pretending. Okay, that's an interesting way of going about it. So they're kind of saying like not doing a reading, like you're sitting and just hanging out, trying to imagine what something feels like. So like there's this frog, for instance, on this card. So sitting, closing your eyes, like on the couch or something, and then imagining a frog in your hands and like feeling what that frog would feel like. Imagine him walking all over your hands and like petting the frog, like what that feels like. And it doesn't have to be a frog if that like freaks you out. But there's something about like getting in the practice of using your imagination to feel the energy of things when they're not actually physically there. It's almost like it gets you into the practice of being familiar with energy coming from your hands. Like I feel like a lot of you will feel things clairsentiently through your hands. Like I really want to suggest Reiki for you guys. Even if you don't learn how to do it, like going and getting Reiki can sometimes attune you to feeling more clairsentient. All right. And then the next thing that I asked was, how should you be using your clairsentience? Like where, like what kind of readings should we be doing? Ancestor of illusion. So I definitely feel like you should be using your clairsentience to connect to your ancestors. Ooh, I actually feel like for a lot of you, using it for animal communication as well. So maybe like when you are coming across animals, try to feel what they're feeling. Like obviously ask them for permission first, but try to imagine what that animal is feeling. Like even if you could go like walk around the zoo or just like a park and kind of like tune in with an animal and be like, what does it feel like to be that animal? And just kind of use your clairsentient skills in that way. I feel like some of you that might be really interesting, some of you might not. But maybe even sitting and doing a meditation to feel your ancestors. And then as far as this illusion part, I actually feel like they're saying to like use your clairsentience as like a lie detector test, like a radar for seeing if something is not what it really is. So like telling your guides, hey, give me a feeling when something is not like right. If something is like being deceptive, or if like someone or something is being deceptive towards me, like give me a feeling. And you can do that ahead of time and say, show me what that feels like. And then maybe do the opposite. Show me what it feels like if the situation is a good situation. And then it's almost like you have this inner clairsentient radar of like being able to test out situations before you walk into them and being like, oh yeah, this is a good situation or this is a bad situation. And it almost feels like just having something like that to kind of constantly use and check in throughout the day would be like a fun little clairsentient exercise that you could do. And then the next cards that I pulled from the Build Your Psychic Skills 90-day cards. My mentor made these, and each card is an exercise for a different day. And basically you do it for 90 days. So I just kind of pulled these at random and asked, what exercises could you be doing? So this is actually using the calendar, the precognitive calendar. And I do have a video and like a printable calendar on my, or in the description down below if you guys are curious and want to try this. But this is about using that precognitive calendar using your clairsentience. And it literally says, use clairsentience by moving your fingers / palm over each day to sense insights. And then you can record what you get, and you've got a whole calendar made for you. And I'm actually getting that yes, like the making of the calendar will help you, but what's just as important is actually looking at the calendar on each day, like after the day is done, and realizing, oh yeah, that sensation did come up for me today, and that was right. And I feel like at the end of the month, you're going to have like a few sensations that your guides gave you that you would now have assigned meanings to it. So like maybe, for example, you wrote down, ooh, this day I felt really cold. And maybe your analytical mind was like, oh, well, maybe it's going to like snow or something. But then the day comes around and maybe like somebody did something like really mean to you or something. And then moving forward, you're like, oh, okay, well, that sensation could mean, you know, a bad person or negative energy. And you're kind of developing a language with your guides to kind of understand some of the sensations that are coming through. And then this card, this is playing outside your rut. So on the side here, these, each kind of day of the week has like a different theme. And playing outside your rut is basically just doing things differently. So what's sticking out to me on this card is the drive a different direction to work, to the store, or wherever you go regularly. Playing outside your rut is about freeing your mind to consider other possibilities. And I think this is because, to me, you guys are so good at it already that I just feel like there's not a whole lot to like improve on. But if there's anything that would help, it would be playing outside your rut. And really, I just see this as being creative, doing things different. It's kind of causing like pattern interrupts in your brain. You're saying like, I'm not going to do this the same way. I'm changing the habit. I'm doing something a different way. I'm driving a different way to work today. And in a lot of ways, I think it just keeps your mind on your toes. And when you do stuff like that, I do feel like it helps your psychic ability, because you're not just repetitively going through every single day. You're purposely putting spontaneity into your life. And in a lot of ways, that's the same energy of your psychic ability, like spontaneous hits that come through. I hope I'm making sense there. But driving a different direction, just doing things differently, I think can absolutely help hone a clair, because you're just getting out of a rut. You're doing things a little bit differently. And I think you come just more aware of your body, more aware of your senses when you do stuff like that. All right, and the last piece of advice I'm going to ask, I pulled some runes. Ooh, interesting. So this one over here is called Ansas. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But this is all about like speech. And when it's kind of on the west side of this like screen, when you're looking at it, I'm really seeing this as like speaking your truth about your intuition, like saying the things that you're getting, even if it's just to yourself. Like there's something about speaking words out loud, especially when we're trying to manifest or get rid of fears, just like saying out loud, hey, I'm clairsentient, or, you know, hey, I'm not going to let this bother my clairsentience, or even just telling somebody around you like, whoa, I just totally felt this happen. And there's something about speaking it out loud that is going to help validate this ability for you. Oh, interesting. So this card is kind of about movement, but also like working in partnership with others. So like I'm getting a few things, like definitely look at your clairsentience as a partnership. Like you are working with it to manifest and, you know, manifest psychic hits basically. So see it as a partnership of like, it's not me against my clairsentience, it's me working with my clairsentience. And the fact that it also kind of fell near the ancestor card, like I actually feel like working with your ancestors or guides just that you're really like attuned to, I think they're going to help you. I mean, maybe you just purely read those like ancestors and purposely read using your clairsentience, and maybe that's actually going to help you develop that clairsentience more. Especially because we also got this rune over here, Ingwaz, and this is all about hearth, home, just like household protection. So I feel like, you know, kind of using this clairsentience around your home, or maybe just in relation to your family and the people that's like kind of living inside your home, maybe that will kind of help strengthen it as well. I'm also maybe just getting that your home environment is conducive or maybe not conducive to your clairsentience. So kind of take stock of like, do I feel like I could practice this in my home? Like I feel like specifically some of you guys feel spirits in your home and it freaks you out. And so we want to regain that protection around the home space so you don't feel like you're not allowed to turn that clairsentience on. Also, some of you probably have people in your home that maybe don't support this, and that's okay. But just understanding that that can affect some of the hits that you're getting, if that makes sense. Because I just feel like for you guys, it's important to nurture your home energy, work with like your guides and your ancestors. And I feel like, especially with this, like speaking your truth, if your home is like not a conducive place where you can't really like share that with other people, like I would examine how you could find like a new group or, you know, find somebody to talk to about it, or just make your home more supportive of, you know, the work that you do intuitively. Even if you need to like set up a different room in your home where nobody else can disturb you so you don't feel, I don't know, like I'm just kind of getting this feeling of like you're not supported by everyone in your family, and because of that, that might actually be just like a block for some of you, I think, that might be hindering your clairsentience. So there's just like an extra little thing that came up that might be important. Alrighty, you guys, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope that this reading helped you. I will link all the decks down below, and remember to subscribe if you are new here. I obviously have this pick a card reading, which might be specific to you now, but I also have a ton of other exercises and things that you can do on my channel to hone your clairsentience. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and just remember that you can book a reading with me privately, and you can just do that through my website. Alrighty, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I will see you in my next video. Bye.